Therefore, even in the midst of happiness, in the midst of pleasure, we remain vulnerable to suffering. And so our state of happiness and pleasure, if we examine it, we find that it's really illusory, really a concealed or potential form of dukkha. The Buddha, in his teaching, reverses this common assumption that underlies all of our usual activity. The assumption that happiness can be found by satisfying our desires. He points out that true happiness is to be achieved by taking the other approach, the opposite approach. This approach is to eliminate the desire. If we eliminate the desire, then our mind remains satisfied, content, and happy, no matter what our external situation might be. We can see this to a limited extent in our daily life, how all the worry, concern, clinging, and discontent that might build up around our desire for a certain object, how all of this mental unhappiness falls away, drops away, as soon as we drop the desire, the craving for that object. But the Buddha says that the same immediately visible principle can be carried all the way through to the point of completion. That it's possible to totally uproot craving once and for all. And by uprooting all of our thirst and craving, all our blind desire, we attain a happiness, a contentment, an inner satisfaction that can never be destroyed, can never be disrupted. This is the cessation of suffering, the end of dukkha, visible here and now. But the end of dukkha has a deeper meaning even than this. We saw in the previous talk, in an earlier talk, that our craving leads us into clinging. We cling, and because of our clinging, we engage in patterns of action by which we build up karma. Then, through our karma, we turn over and over again in samsara, the round of birth and death, moving through its different planes of existence. The heavenly worlds, the human world, the lower worlds. All these different planes of existence have their own kinds of dukkha, their own forms of suffering. Even the heavens are no final refuge. By achieving a heavenly rebirth, we can enjoy immensely long lives, great power, beauty, and bliss. But even those worlds, the life in those worlds comes to an end and can be followed by rebirth elsewhere and by more suffering. Thus, to reach final happiness, full freedom from suffering, we have to get free from the cycle of existence. And this comes by uprooting craving. When craving is eliminated, all clinging stops. Our actions no longer build up karma, and then the wheel of repeated becoming is brought to a halt. That is the state of final deliverance, which is the aim of the Buddha's teaching. The state of final deliverance is called in Pali Nibbana, in Sanskrit Nirvana. The word Nirvana or Nibbana literally means the going out or extinguishing of a flame, and thus used figuratively by the Buddha, it means the extinguishing of the flame of craving, the extinguishing of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. The Pali writers also take the word to have the meaning of escape from the forest. That is, escape from the forest of craving, or from the forest of samsaric becoming. The state of Nibbana is the ultimate goal of the Buddhist path, the end and the consummation of the entire practice. The Buddha says that just as the waters of a river plunge into the ocean and merge with the ocean, so the spiritual path, the Noble Eightfold Path, plunges into Nibbana and merges with Nibbana. Now, when we try to talk about Nibbana, we immediately come up against the problem that Nibbana is said to be beyond the range of speech and language. Nibbana is a supramundane state, a reality which is to be seen, realized, and experienced, not a concept to be conceptualized or an idea to be discussed. Ultimately, Nibbana should be experienced and realized. However, to make known the nature of Nibbana, we have to resort to words, we have to speak about it, and therefore this lecture becomes possible. If we were to really give a very direct communication of the nature of Nibbana, we just have to stop the lecture at this point. But then those who are listening would be disappointed, so therefore I'll have to go on to speak to fill up the rest of the tape. Now the question comes up as to the nature of Nibbana, and especially the question is asked, does Nibbana signify only the extinction of the defilements and liberation from samsara, or does it signify some reality existing in itself? According to the Theravada school of Buddhism, which I see to be solidly grounded in the actual word of the Buddha, Nibbana is not only the destruction of defilements and the ending of samsara, but an actually existing reality, a reality which is transcendent to all the realms of phenomenal existence, to the entire empirical world of mundane experience. There are certain reasons which can be offered in support of this view. Here, I don't wish to burden anybody with dry scholarship, but a look at the texts, at the suttas spoken by the Buddha, can help clarify for us our idea of what Nibbana is. This part might be a little bit dry, and a little bit at times difficult to follow, but I ask the listeners to try to follow it, even if they have to repeat the tape. In the suttas, we find that there are certain key words that the Buddha uses to designate existing realities. These we can call